بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Inshallah al-Aziz, we will begin our discourse of seerat-e-mustafa sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Previously, we did discuss the Islam of many companions of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, as-sabiqun al-awwalun. And today we will discuss furthermore the struggles of Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam regarding the propagation of this deen and how Quraish and Abu Lahab specifically began to torment and torture Prophet ﷺ and started to give hard time to Prophet ﷺ for his work of da'wah. So Muslims began to meet at Darul Arqam. Darul Arqam basically was the house of Hazrat Arqam radiyallahu an, because this was the most safest place to do the gatherings. And because Hazrat Arqam radiyallahu an was sabiqun al-awwalun, he was from amongst the 7th or the 10th person who embraced Islam. And he was one of those individuals who aided Prophet ﷺ by presenting his house to Prophet ﷺ for the means of, making any kind of mashwara, making any kind of, planning in terms of how to propagate the message, or for da'wat and tabligh of other sahabas as well. Until Umar radiallahu anhu embraced Islam. Before the embracing of Islam of Umar radiallahu anhu, Darul Arqam, meaning Hazrat Arqam radiallahu anhu house, was the safe house basically for Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sahaba radiallahu anhu ajma'in. After Umar radiallahu anhu embraced Islam, and because he made an open challenge to anyone who wanted to come in the way of Islam. Obviously, we will discuss that at the time of Umar radiallahu anhu's Islam and the story when it comes into this time. But Quraish did not have the guts to actually challenge Umar radiallahu anhu and his authority. So obviously, they became more stronger in that sense. So until that time, Prophet ﷺ used to do tabligh in much more hidden way. But now they were gathering here and they were doing dini work. And then after 3 years of doing da'wat and tabligh, Prophet ﷺ was given a commandment of, now make i'lan, meaning now officially, tell everybody and give the message of Deen Islam. The question arises here is that, well, he was already given ta'lim, he was already given da'wat, and we've seen in other sahabas, when, some of the sahabas, their family members got really offended and they started tormenting and torturing them. So what does this ayat mean, and what does that mean, I'lan and da'wat? See, in the beginning, Prophet ﷺ, obviously, the sahabas, those who were already of like nature, meaning they were under the fitrat, they always hated, idol worshipping, or they did not understand what idol worshipping was all about. So, and the moment Prophet ﷺ presented Deen and Tawheed, they immediately accepted. But other people were not of that mindset. So now the other problem was that one was to accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the only deity to worship, but also to refute idol worshipping. That was another thing, right? And I mentioned this previously as well, that this gives us a great lead in terms of anyone coming into the fold of Islam who is an idol worshipper, even now, or someone who believes in a false prophet, he has to refute his batil aqaid that he had before, right? That is the condition. Over here, the same thing was, applied. That Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was told that now just not only make i'lan, but also tell them that now you cannot worship any idols. There cannot be any idols in the Makkah, and you cannot give them any kind of role of a deity, or keep them as a deity, as a means of worship. So that was the maqsad, was to refute idol worshipping very explicitly. That is what the maqsad of the da'wat and tabligh was, and making Elan was. So obviously Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed many ayats before Prophet ﷺ called Quraysh. And like one of the verse of the Quran says, وَأَنزِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ وَاخْفِضْ جَنَاحَكَ وَأَنزِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, meaning that go and warn your close relatives regarding what you've brought, meaning that tell them to completely negate shirk. And وَاخْفِضْ جَنَاحَكَ لِمَنِ اتَّبَعَكَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, meaning that those who believe in you, those who follow you, those who accept your message, be kind to them, be soft on them, don't be harsh on them. قُلْ إِنِّي أَنَا نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ, meaning that I am here to give you fair warning about something of a great coming, of a day of judgment, and of many aqaid that you don't believe in. I'm here to tell you about all of them, right? So Prophet ﷺ, as he was commanded, he goes to Safa and he basically makes Ailan, and he calls every single Quraysh, tribe by their names, by their forefathers' name, and he gathers them. So all of them came, and obviously the famous incident that we all hear about is that he told them that, look, if I was to tell you that from behind this mountain there is an enemy coming to attack you, will you believe me? They all said with one voice, absolutely will believe you. We have never heard anything false from you. We have never heard anything that is not true. You always speak the truth. You are Sadiq and Amin. So obviously we will believe in you. So Prophet ﷺ said that, look, I am here to give you a bigger warning than this, that I have been given this deen, and I am the Nabi Akhir Zaman, meaning that I am here to refute this idol worshipping and accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as your deity worthy of worship only. Upon hearing this, the first person who reacted was Abu Lahab, the same Abu Lahab who was so happy that Prophet ﷺ was born, that he freed his slave girl. Again, I mentioned that previously as well, in that discourse, in that session, that it was a great deal. Letting go of your asset is a big deal. That means you must be really happy. And he was the one who said, is that what you have gathered us for? That is your message? He was upset with Prophet ﷺ. He started cursing at Prophet ﷺ, and he started rebuking Prophet ﷺ. Then obviously Prophet ﷺ realized that these people are not going to believe, so he finds another way of calling them towards deen. And the other way of calling towards deen, and again we learned this as well, that when you host people, they may find it a soft spot for you, and they may listen to you, right? That is our akhlaq, that is our way of doing tabligh as well, that we should host people if you want them to listen to our message. That is something we can learn from Prophet ﷺ, this example, especially those who call people, especially the interfaith, and especially those who do dawat and tabligh in places which are very, very, in the areas where the deen is, deeni work is not as popular. Lots of times you go to villages and suburb areas of different parts of the world, and people may not know your deen, right? Or we go to South America, places, there are places in this world where deen work is not that popular, where people don't even know what Islam is all about, right? So the best way to call them is call them on a da'wat and give them da'wat. So this is something we learn as well. So Prophet ﷺ, obviously, and also, other thing over here is that Prophet ﷺ wanted to show them something, because it's something of unique nature that has never happened before. And obviously when something unusual happens, people start to get intrigued, and they get interested as to, hey, this person may have something to offer, something to tell. So Prophet ﷺ tells Ali radiallahu anh, they go get some food. So basically Ali radiallahu anh gets a dasti, meaning the goat leg, a goat leg, which is usually a sufficient for one individual. He gets a bowl of milk, and Prophet ﷺ, and also he gets one sa, wheat, meaning something for the bread or whatever. So obviously there's not enough. If you really think about all these quantities, this is only enough for one individual. One person can eat. But Prophet ﷺ called about 40 people from the Quraish, and including his uncles. So Hazrat Hamza, Hazrat Abbas, Abu Lahab, and Abu Talib, all of them came as well, along with other 40 people. So they all came. So basically they were the elite class and the senior. And again, if the whole strategy behind it was that if these people were to believe in me, these people were to listen to me, then definitely other people will follow them. That was the maqsad behind it. Obviously, and Prophet was someone to show them this miracle and this khususi sifat of Rasulullah, of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that so that they believe in him. Because the thing is that if you were to show, if something unusual happens, then obviously prophethood becomes more established, right? There's something they've never seen in Prophet ﷺ. Now it's happening, meaning this message is true and haq. He's not just saying it out of his whims, right? That's one of the things of the Anbiya and the quality of Anbiya, right? That they do something that is unusual, right? So again, once again, we get this proof that those who claim false prophethood, or those who have claimed in the past, they never had any miracle to offer. So all they do is, here and there, talk about here and there. They may not have any dalil, they may not have any proof. They don't have any proof. Forget about they may. They don't have any proof. Obviously, it's a false prophet. But what I'm trying to tell you here is that believing in that person. And clearly here, Rasulullah ﷺ performed a miracle. That when he ate the food, he basically, bit the meat of the goat and he left it in the bowl. It was enough for the 40 people to be fulfilled completely. He drank from the milk and he put it back. It was enough for the 40 people to quench their thirst. And similar for the amount of roti that was there. So again, all these things were a miracle, a sign of a miracle, so that this would tell them that look, this is something that's never happened before. This person is speaking the truth, right? When they see it with their own eyes, they'll speak and they'll believe in Prophet ﷺ, right? So that's what I'm trying to tell you, that lots of times in the past, people have made claims of false prophethood. Absolute false. They can't even perform anything, even a smallest trick out of their sleeve, they cannot do it. Yet people say, oh, he's a prophet and he's this and he's that. And they make a whatever sect out of it. And they want to call themselves Muslim. How are you Muslim? You basically doesn't even fit into the category of prophethood. Nothing. And absolutely, there's no traits and qualities that exist. And yet, some people are just foolish. That's all I'm trying to say. Is that, think logically. Anbiya, we need to put them in a category like, there's a criteria. It's not just like any Tom, Dick, and Harry can, become whatever, right? It's a criteria. There's specific things that have to happen, right? Prophet ﷺ went through so much difficulties and hardship. He's going through difficulties and hardship. Receiving wahi in itself was an experience. And there's a criteria for all the Anbiya, right? They went through difficulties and hardship, right? But then we have people who claiming prophethood just like that. Forget about doing a miracle. They cannot even go through difficulties and hardship of this nature. So this tells you that these people are liars. They are phonies. And we should not believe in them. Hopefully people understand this message. But coming back to the seerah, Prophet ﷺ performed this miracle. Obviously it was a miracle of his own. It was a khususiyat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The moment people saw that, obviously now people are going to be inclined, right? The moment Abu Lahab realized that he's done something of unusual nature, immediately he says, oh people, Muhammad, meaning he used to call him Muhammad because obviously out of disrespect, but we will say sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he has done some sort of a magic and sorcery onto your food. And obviously Prophet ﷺ did not even get an opportunity to present the deen, and they all left. The second day Prophet ﷺ did the same thing. He called everyone. People came and they started eating his food, and the same miracle was presented. And but this time Prophet ﷺ immediately told them that look, I have brought you the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I've come to warn you, and I'm here to give you glad tidings of Jannah, and obviously I've brought news of the hereafter. People, Abu Lahab obviously, being a relative, being the uncle of Prophet ﷺ, decided that he wanted to go against Prophet ﷺ. And on the other hand, we have Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, who is just a friend, who is not even, a blood relationship in that sense, not even that close to Prophet ﷺ in terms of family relations. But look at his condition and look at his condition. Someone who went above and beyond in terms of sacrificing anything and everything was in his path. He sacrificed everything, his wealth, his life, everything he gave up for the sake of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and this deen. This was Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, by the way. And over here we have Abu Lahab, who was the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he went to the utmost length of, denouncing, torturing Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and he went through every single, and he did every possible way of, torturing Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and to do takzeeb of Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So much and so that two of the daughters of Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam in his nikah of his two sons, Utbah and Utaybah, right? So what he did was, he told them to divorce both daughters, Ruqayya and Kulthum radiallahu anha. And subhanallah, obviously it was to basically, torture Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, torment Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, was to basically, it's something we don't, like nowadays especially too, we don't understand the pain of a daughter when she gets divorced. It's unfortunate in today's ma'ashara and social norms. It has become so common, unfortunately. And unfortunately, again, this will be a whole different topic on its own. But nevertheless, this was just to torture Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. I'm not going to delve into that. But it's just very hard to comprehend for us. So again, the Prophet did not stop over there, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Over here, Prophet ﷺ was patient. He realized what was happening, right? For the sake of deen, he keeps on going. And who marries those two beautiful daughters of Prophet ﷺ? Usman radiallahu anh. And Usman radiallahu anh was known as what? Amongst all the Sahabas. Prophet Usman radiallahu anh was given a title that was special for Usman radiallahu anh, which was Zul Rain, meaning who possessed or who had two daughters or two beloved daughters of Prophet ﷺ in his nikah. So both, one after another, came into the nikah of Prophet Usman radiallahu anh. Nevertheless, we'll discuss that when the chapter of Usman radiallahu anh comes as well. And again, this, Abu Lahab, realizing that this did not stop Prophet ﷺ, so what he did was, he sends a delegation to whom? Abu Talib. And he says that, look, stop your nephew from doing this. What he's doing. Before, he was just propagating a message about whatever, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We did not say anything. Now he's saying that refute idols, refute our ancestors and forefathers, call them foolish people. We can't do that. That was part of the creed, right? That was part of the creed, that they had to say these things in order to accept Islam, right? So Abu Talib at first said, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to stop my nephew, and I'm not going to, say anything to him. However, Abu Talib realized, Abu Lahab realized that, Abu Talib is not going to do it. So they go second time. And the second time they try with much more hard. So they send more people. This time, more elites and the tribal chiefs of Quraish at the time. And obviously to assert more pressure on Abu Talib. And Abu Talib came into that pressure. Obviously, it's not easy to fend off family members, especially the elders, especially those who have influence into the family. It's not easy. So obviously Abu Lahab, when Prophet ﷺ came, he tried to talk to him. He said that, look, all these people came, your Qawm came to me and said these things to me to tell you to stop what you're doing, right? Prophet ﷺ realized that, or felt that maybe his uncle is getting, getting onto the back foot, or you could say cold feet, in terms of supporting him. And he felt that, maybe he may not support him any longer. So Prophet ﷺ immediately stood up and said, look, oh my uncle, if Quraysh was to put on my one hand the sun and on my other hand the moon, yet I will not let go of what I have been teaching. Whether they may kill me, whether I may perish, but I will not let go of this deen, and I will not let go of this message, and I will not let go of this mehnat and this tabligh. Obviously, those words obviously impressed Abu Talib as well. So now he did not say anything to Prophet ﷺ, and he said to him, continue doing what you're doing. I will ensure that nobody bothers you. And he basically let's go of Prophet ﷺ, and Prophet ﷺ continued doing his work. There's a point here that why comparison, Prophet ﷺ using the word the moon and the sun. Obviously, if you were to think about it, it was really impossible bringing moon and the sun on two hands. The whole maqsad was that even if that was a possibility, even if this was to happen, the Quraysh was somehow able to do that. The message that I am propagating is much more of significance, much more of importance than those two things that are very, very crystal clear. Meaning in terms of dalil, nobody can deny the sun does not exist and the moon does not exist. They are so visible, they are so clear that, you know what, the message is very, very clear, right? If one was to look at it, person who's jahil, completely jahil, nothing, and doesn't know anything, looks at the sun and says, yeah, that thing is there. So Prophet ﷺ was saying that this message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very, very clear, right? It's extremely clear. So therefore, we need to understand this, that for the work of deen, we should have conviction in our heart. We should have full conviction in our heart, those who do tablighi work and those who do any kind of deeni work. We should have conviction. Even if we don't do any kind of work specifically, as a Muslim, we should have conviction in our heart. We should be content with our deen. We should not come into peer pressures. We should not look at other people and say, hey, this person is making fun of me, so let me shorten my beard. Let me get rid of my attire. That's not what we should be. This is what we get a message from this seerah. Again, the maqasid I'm trying to highlight as much as possible so that we may get a message. The whole maqsad of seerah is not only just to know the right of Prophet ﷺ, but the message behind it. How we should fold ourselves, mold ourselves, and put into the prophetic teachings and to mold ourselves into the life of Prophet ﷺ, meaning the deen of Rasulullah ﷺ, how we should turn ourselves into it. So now, once again, Prophet ﷺ continued with propagating of deen. And then Quraysh, again, last time they said, this time we're going to go and negotiate hard with him. And they're probably going to tell him that, look, do something about it. So what they do is all of them go, and many of them, including Mutam ibn Adi, all these people, again, the elite class of Quraysh, they go to Abu Talib and say, look, there's this person here, his name is Ammar bin Wahid. He is the most handsome, the most beautiful young man. Why don't you keep him as your nephew or as your, foster son, basically, or someone who you take into your, in your guardianship, and you let go of Prophet ﷺ, meaning that don't support him. Because again, those who know tribal cultures, those who understand tribal cultures, and the tribal world, how it works, is that they were very, very particular, or they are still, those that exist, they're very particular about people from elite backgrounds. They cannot harm them directly, so they'll try to do all these things so that they may find some sort of a way to harm them. So they come up with schemes like that, right? So now over here too, they could not harm Prophet ﷺ until he was under the care of Abu Talib, because he's obviously the grandson of Abdul Muttalib. He is the son of Abdullah, the father of Rasulullah ﷺ, who's the uncle, who's the brother of Abu Talib. So obviously they all proper Qurayshis of Bani Hashim. So from their perspective, that they were harming their own kind, that stigma will attach to them. So they were trying to say that if you let go of him, meaning that you basically abandon him, then we will be able to harm him. That's what they were trying to do. So Abu Talib said that you want me to take this individual and let go of my brother's son? Like, you really want me to do that? My own flesh and blood, you want me to let go of him, take this person and raise this guy? Absolutely not. I'm not going to do that. And so, you know what? You can keep your offer. They tried putting a lot more pressure onto them, that this is the only thing we can think of, because we want to assassinate him, because that's the only way he's going to stop. He's not going to listen to you or anything else. He said, no, absolutely not. And therefore, they became extremely sort of devastated that, they realized that he will not support them in terms of Quraysh, supporting Quraysh in terms of stopping Prophet ﷺ. Hence, they immediately came down to the point where they said, you know what, now we have to oppose Prophet ﷺ openly. But on the other hand, Abu Talib also told his family members and people from Bani Hashim who he had influence on, they said, help Prophet ﷺ as much as possible. Obviously, a lot of people, listen to that except Abu Lahab. He basically became the staunch enemy of Prophet ﷺ. And we know this, the famous story when he, from the narrations in the hadith, that when Rasulullah ﷺ mentions, Ya ayyuhan nas, qulu ilallah, qulu la ilaha illallah, tuflihun. And from the back, there will be a person walking behind him, and saying that don't listen to this man is a madman, right? And the same again, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna Allah ya'murukum an ta'budu wa la tushriku bihi shay'a. And Abu Lahab would say, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna haza ya'murukum an tushriku dina abaikum. Meaning that, oh people, don't listen to this man. He's basically telling you to let go of the deen of your forefathers. Therefore, hence, he was basically denouncing and calling Prophet ﷺ names, calling him a madman, calling him a sorcerer, a magician, someone who has no value, someone who is a joke. We need to understand, again, we don't understand this from a context, that what's the big deal? Because in our urf, unfortunately, these things are very, very popular, sorcerers and magicians, right? We think it's fascinating. But over here, we get this message that these people are very insignificant. These people were like basically the losers of the society, if you really want to think about it. That's what he was basically referring to, that he's a loser of the society, so don't listen to him, right? That's what he was saying. So obviously, it's a devastation. Like for us, even as we need to, if we want to understand seerah, we need to understand the mahol of it. It's not easy, to be called something that you're not, number one. Number two, you being given an example of an individual who is considered the lowest of the low in the society, right? And yet you have to say, Kulu la ilaha illallah. Like this, think about the emotions that are going through from Prophet ﷺ. That is something we need to understand, and we should have the pain, and we should have this desire of making deen our life, our lifestyle. That deen is the haq and maqsad. Unfortunately, we get impressed by this by these different people, especially in the West. Those people live in the West. We get impressed really easily. We want to have ta'wilat about every hukum of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We wanna find ta'wilat in Sunnah. We wanna find ta'wilat in different things. Ahkamat, farz ahkamat. Oh, this is not right. This is not Sunnah. Or it's lower than Sunnah, so we don't want to do this. If somebody tells you to keep some beard or wear an Islamic attire, oh, maybe I don't want to do this. It's merely because people will think of me as differently. All these things are nonsense. What I'm trying to say is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's deen is pure, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has put through a lot of struggles. This deen came to us. It's an amanat upon us. This deen came to us with a lot of struggles of Sahaba and Prophet ﷺ struggling throughout their lives. This in itself, this just statement, Ya ayyuhan nas qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihun. The pain and the sincerity of Prophet ﷺ and the pain for the ummah is so much in this jumla. It's ajib. We will not be able to understand this. The only thing we can do is fulfill our life and become the ghulam Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning that we apply the sunnahs in life we bring sunnah into our life. That we should be thinking about and striving for. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the understanding. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us utmost love for Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his sunnah, and for his companions, and for his family members, and everyone. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all our sins. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.